let's do this. Why yes, I did get horse medication in my eyeball prior to filming this. It feels as wonderful as it looks, so just in case you were curious, it didn't go well with the medication administering. So anyway, I'm clearly here to discuss some Sarah J. Maas, because as of today, I am completely caught up on all of her books, and I need to talk about it. So I actually started taking notes for this, and as I was taking notes, I was like, you know what, this is gonna be a really, really long video, so we're just gonna go with it and see where it takes us. I'm gonna start this out unspoilery and then see where it goes. If it gets spoilery, I will tell you to stop listening if you don't want to be spoiled. These are just my overall thoughts as far as the reading process went for me. Now I'm going to take you through in the order that I read them, which is not at all the order that everybody else did. But the Throne of Glass series was already at this point. There were already 5 books out, 4 in the series plus the novellas. So that was a little daunting. Also, they get really big really quickly, so I was like, you know, I don't know if I'm ready to take on that series. I didn't hear amazing stuff from my one, like, reliable book friend. So I started with this book. So this book is what introduced me to Sarah J. Maas's writing, which I think was a really good choice on my part, because she had already written up to like the 3rd or 4th book by the time this one came out, so I feel like she had developed her writing style well enough. I knew it was a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, so obviously it's going to be somewhat predictable, you know what's going to happen. I wasn't blown away by this book, but it definitely held my attention and it definitely made me want to keep reading. This was the first book in a very long time that I not only had a book hangover, but I just had book cravings. Like, all I wanted to do was read this book. And it takes a very special book for me to, like, crave reading like that, where, like, nothing else is gonna satisfy my mood at that moment except reading. So this book definitely did it. Were there some weird relationships in it? Yes. This book definitely kind of brought me back to, like, the Twilight romance vibes, where I was like, that's not a healthy relationship. He's kind of, like, controlling and abusive, and she's like, that's okay, that's just how he is, I'll accept it. So that was my one main issue while reading it. My other issue was the resolution of how the curse or the fairy tale story progresses. How the, like, curse kind of fit the story too perfectly. As in, I don't think the build-up was as, like, descriptive and detailed as it should have been. It just kind of happened to be like, oh, you happen to be this perfect person to fit this perfect curse-breaking scheme that we have. Everything fell into place and worked exactly how we planned it would, sort of thing. That's as far as I'm gonna get into it, but that was the only qualm that I had with this. Getting into this book. Okay, guys, this is where I hit the Sarah J. Maas hype train. Hard. Like, I have a permanent ticket for that train, I have some snacks, I have a window seat, and a blanket. I'm riding it for the long haul, and this book is the reason why. So first thought about this book. There were some sex scenes in A Court of Thorns and Roses. I got it. I understood. It was pretty explicit. But girl, this book gets some sexy time. This book, okay, literally I finished this book and I was like, wow, that was pure sex. Not in the sense that there was, like, serious explicit content, which, yes, there is, but just how it read, it was so smooth and, like, climactic, and, okay, I'm taking this analogy way too far. This book was just so, like, sensually written that you just could not put it down. You had an affair with this book, let's be honest. So, little tiny spoiler real quick. Reese, I pronounce his name Rice, just that's how it's spelled. It's always been Rysand in my mind, not Rhysand, even though I know it's supposed to be pronounced that way. I love me some bad boys with some tattoos, but whoo! I feel like the romance and the relationship dynamic and the character development in this book was just, like, phenomenal. Feyre went through so much growth in this book, and she kind of realized how, you know, like, that relationship was. And this just, whew. Okay, so this book got me on the hype train, and I had the worst book hangover, and nothing would cure it except more Sarah J. Maas. So immediately after I finished Akamath, I literally bought this entire series. I bought all 5 books, I had a coupon, and I just went for it. So getting into Throne of Glass, first book. Y'all were crazy. Okay, my really good book friend read the first one, did not enjoy it, did not recommend it. That was the main reason that I didn't get into this series. After reading these 2 books, it sold me on her writing, and I was like, okay, we're gonna give it to this, because everybody said, Give it to her second book. It takes her like a book to hit her writing stride. So give it like 2 books to see if you're gonna like not finish the series or if you're gonna keep going with it. So I was like, okay. I struggled through this book, guys. It was okay. I mean, like, the story was okay. You could tell it was her first book. The writing was kind of like, eh. I have a main issue with a lot of exclamation marks in writing, especially in, like, internal monologue thoughts. I just can't stand a lot of, like, he thought, what about me? Exclamation mark. I'm not that kind of woman. Exclamation mark. For some reason, that just makes it seem like a Valley girl is talking in her head, and it takes me out of the story. Honestly, that was my main issue with the writing in this book. That, and it was kind of very premature YA high fantasy story style. Like, it read like an older YA book to me, as in, like, the plot wasn't super fantastic or original, but you could see things kind of brewing in the background. But I'm gonna be honest, I couldn't quite follow the world and the politics in this as much as I should have, just because I kind of wasn't really getting it. The entire time I was just like, y'all are crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. This is like, meh. So I sucked it up and got to this one. It started out better. The writing was definitely better. There were less exclamation marks, so I mean, bonus points right there. I hit the halfway point of this. That's when I was just like, oh, okay, I'm starting to see the trend here. My main issue with the first one is this girl, Selena Sardathian, is supposed to be the world-famous assassin, and she is supposed to be the toughest chick in the entire world, but nothing really happens that makes me think that she is the world's best assassin. To hold that title, especially in like a fantasy world, you better be like a well-seasoned middle-aged man who has like a scar down the side of his face and has seen some shit. That one, I was like, she's like a 16, 17-year-old girl who likes dresses. I don't really see the like kick-ass, tough female character. You see it in this book, and if you've read this, you know what I'm talking about. Halfway through, the rage starts brewing. The best scenes to read in YA books, as far as like climactic moments go, in my opinion, are when the person just like loses their shit. Like something really extreme happens, and they just go hardcore on whatever their issue is or their obstacle. They just go bananas. She hit that point, and all of a sudden the assassin came out, and it was amazing to read about. So that's when I kind of hit the stride of the Throne of Glass series. I got it. It made sense to me. I wasn't really digging the romance. I'm not too into, how do you pronounce his name? Cale? It's Cole. It's been Cole the entire time. There's an O in there, so I say it. I know it's supposed to be like Kale, I don't know. The pronunciations in this book are all over the place for me. I wasn't quite sold on him. I know a lot of people ship them, and I don't know. I knew there was going to be like a romance change coming up. I didn't know who. That was all I knew about the series, is that she changes guys at some point. So we get to the third book. I know this is when my love for the series is about to take off, because she's kind of leaving the environment that I wasn't really sold on. Being in the castle in Rifthold, I just wasn't really feeling that environment. When I knew she was being sent to like mystical Feyland, I was on board, so I was pumped for this book. This book is what sold me on the series. I feel like Selena started to get serious character development in the second book, or at least you finally start to see a lot of the like history building in her and like the aftermath of what can happen from her. This book, we start to finally see a lot more of her growing as a person and as an adult. She's no longer just kind of like a whiny teenager. We also meet Manon in this book, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite characters. I know a lot of people kind of don't really like her or like are kind of confused by the series. I loved Manon's story because, you know what? It was really gory, really graphic, really harsh and abusive. How to Train Your Dragon. That's what I thought the entire time. Training the Wyverns, I was just like, yep, this is How to Train Your Dragon. Any story where you were training like a wild, untamable beast to be like your battle mount, I'm on board. That's a done deal for me. I love those stories. They will always be amazing. So as much as I don't like when stories flip from like point of views to different parts of the world, it kind of takes me out of it. This one did it okay. This one was pretty good, mainly because I really liked Manon. I didn't really care for when it switched back to the castle scenes. Like, I wasn't really feeling those characters. I just wanted to read about Selena and Rowan in this book. The Manon Witches story, I was starting to get it, and I started to see, like, how it's going to impact the story, and I'm so excited to see where it's gonna go. Alright, on to the fourth book. Okay, let me describe my reading situation. I generally have an audiobook, an ebook, and a physical book going on at the same time. If you know me, that's how I read. I generally have 3 books going. There ain't no side chicks with this book. This book was my main squeeze. I could not put it down. Nothing else was going to satisfy my reading need except for this book. It was this book or nothing at all. And you know what? Like 2 days, I read the whole thing. No regrets. It was amazing. We are just progressing so much further with all the characters. I love Manon's story. Again, just how it continues. I love Abraxas, her wyvern. I'm gonna go with wyvern, I think that's how you say it. Mainly because he loves wildflowers. That cracked me up every single time that he's sniffing some wildflowers. I love it. I love how brutal that entire like witch culture is and how you can see things changing and you see things coming and it's gonna be amazing. I love Selena's story, and I'm not gonna go into any details because obviously we're really far into the series right here, but just everything about this. I love Adian, he's one of my like top characters, he's gonna be great. I love Lysandra, she's gonna be awesome. I loved Selena and Rowan and Manon and Dorian, everyone's good. The whole Dorian story broke my heart. Like every time we got those little tiny chapters of like him living in his head, whoo, got to me. It may have only been like a page long, but it hit hard. It hit right here, guys. So, okay, I'm not gonna go any further into this, but guys, Empire of Storms cannot get here soon enough. I've never been so proud of myself on timing a series read better because I only have like 2 or 3 weeks until the next one comes out, so I'm right there with all of you guys just anxiously awaiting it, and it's gonna be great. So that brings me to The Assassin's Blade, and my plan was to read this steadily over the next few weeks because it's a collection of novellas, so I knew that it was gonna kind of like tide me over until Empire of Storms came out. I wasn't like super excited because of how far I am in the series and how far she has come from this point. I was like, I don't know if I really want to revert back to like whiny teenager Selena, but this does not read like novellas. I was pleasantly surprised. For some reason, collections of short stories and novellas aren't really my cup of tea. They're not like a book that I grab for just because they don't flow well. Hey guys, this does not read like a collection of novellas because all of the novellas in it are just chronological stories. So this is essentially just a prequel to Throne of Glass. Like, it literally ends where Throne of Glass starts. So I was pleasantly surprised by that, and of course, I read through the whole thing in like a day. Why? Why? This was supposed to hold me over, but it just kind of flowed right through. Like, one story just led right into the next, into the next. It wasn't like random stories of her past. It was just like, oh, these are the events that happened in the Assassin's Guild and with Sam that led up to her being in the salt mines. So I read the whole thing. So I was gonna go a little bit further in detail with the plots, but this is already like a 20-minute long video that I'm hoping I can edit down to a reasonable amount. So that's gonna be it. Those are literally my vague thoughts while reading all of her books. I get it, guys. Thank you for kind of pushing me to read this stuff. It's phenomenal. It wasn't until this book that I was like, I get it, but I get it now. And these books, good things are happening. So, who is excited for Empire Storms? What do you guys think about this series? Please leave it down in the comments. I just want to discuss Sarah J. Maas stuff forever because nothing is going to compare right now, so I'm just going to sit here in a reading slump and wait. I'm just kidding, I'm going to read other stuff, but nothing's going to be as good right now. I just need some, like, fantasy, amazing, kick-ass female characters. That's it. If you have recommendations of books to read in that realm, let me know, because it's going to be a long 3 weeks until Empire Storms comes out. Hope you guys are reading some amazing books. If not, pick these up. I recommend it. And I will see you guys in my next video.